Welcome to the Holistic Growth Podcast, navigating business and natural health and functional medicine, where we bring you insights and strategies to help grow your practice and amplify your impact. Welcome, everybody, to the Holistic Growth Podcast with Get Healthy. I'm Dr. Tracy Straub. I'm the Chief Health and Growth Officer right here at Get Healthy Store. And we're so excited to be launching this podcast because we have our very special guest, Dr. Bengtsson, back again. He did a webinar with us. He is from Sigrid, which is an incredible revolutionary product. That's how I would categorize it for blood sugar and weight management. So they are revolutionizing the industry, and we're so excited to have you here, Dr. Torre. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so, probably the point to this podcast is really to talk about in recent years, and most within probably the last 9 months to 12 months, the market has really exploded with a rise in GLP-1 products, medications, supplements, and they're kind of all aimed at this whole blood sugar and supporting weight loss. And so I think this trend really reflects a broader response to a growing public health crisis, being obesity and metabolic disorders. I mean, honestly, globally, I think we have over 40% of the adults that are classified in the US as obese, and millions more dealing with conditions of prediabetes, insulin, type 2 diabetes. So I'm really excited to have this conversation because you're offering a new way of approaching this. So can you first give us a little background on who you are? And then I have some questions. I want to know, like, what inspired you to create this and really get into the technology of this supplement?
Excellent. Yeah. So thank you for having me. So I'm a professor in physiology at Stockholm University. I've been working with prediabetes, diabetes, and obesity and the mechanism behind these diseases for almost 30 years now. So it's quite a long time. I have a research group that actually are focusing on the mechanistic part of these diseases. I'm also the founder of Sigrid Therapeutics. So I have had this idea, which I will tell you more about, and I will tell you how I actually came about it. And I also the founder of Atrogi, which is a pharmaceutical company actually trying to make a new type 2 diabetes and also obesity drug. So I have kind of a broad spectrum here, both from scientist going the whole way to entrepreneur and actually starting these kind of companies. So if we go back to Sigrid and what I actually had as an idea from the beginning was that when I've been working with this, I've come to the conclusion that nobody really wants to take a drug. I mean, that's basically, if you take a drug, you're sick. No one wants to be sick. You don't want to take drugs. And if I go to myself, I don't want to take drugs if I don't have to take them. So I was actually thinking, is there a way that we could attack this in a different way? Could I make something that actually change how food is taken up into the bloodstream? So that was the kind of the basics from the beginning. So can I actually make something that is making fast food to slow food? That was the idea. And what I mean here by fast food is, I mean, there are different foods, of course. You have fast food that is fast, that you can buy fast. But what I'm talking about is actually food that is degraded fast. Because most of the food we're eating today is actually not very good. Because it's processed, it's very, very fast in the way that it is degraded in the intestines very fast. And especially carbohydrates are very, very rapidly degraded in the intestine. And what does that mean? It means that when you eat food that is ultra processed or even processed, it will degrade very fast. And what happens is that you will get very high levels of glucose in the intestine first, and then it actually transfers into your blood, into your bloodstream. So you get very, very high peaks of glucose in sugar in your bloodstream, glucose. And that is actually what's causing a number of the problems we are actually facing. And you were saying, like, I mean, America and also in Europe, we have a lot of people who are suffering from a lot of these diseases, metabolic diseases. And a lot of the problems stem from this problem that you degrade your food too fast, it goes into your bloodstream too fast, you will release insulin levels, the insulin will go up, your blood glucose will first go up, and then it will crash down, and then you will be more hungry and hangry, as we say. I mean, both angry and hungry.
My kids get like,
yeah. So that was a long rant on the problem. So I was like, okay, can we do something about it? And then I realized if we could make something that was safe, that couldn't go into your bloodstream, that could actually slow the digestion in the intestine, you could have something that could be very, very valid and good for many patients, both pre-diabetics, type 2 diabetics, even obese people. So what I did,
yes. Your point there just for a second, because sometimes people hear that if we can slow down digestion, they think of gastroparesis, they're thinking of motility of the gut. It's not really what we're talking about. We're talking about breaking the food down slower so that it gets released into the bloodstream slower. So I just wanted to clarify that, because I know.
Thank you. That's very
Well,
good.
one of the side effects of some of the medications that are being overdosed right now on people is this motility issue, and it creates a lot of problems. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that point. And second, we have such poor gut health overall, especially in the United States. I mean, I think the top 4 medications that are prescribed here are gastrointestinal medications. There's over 230,000 people who die from gastric complicated diseases. So that's a huge number when it comes to looking at health. And when we look at the digestive system, we have to realize that most of our metabolic processes start there with incretins being released.
Yes, for sure.
And that's our communicators. And metabolic disorders aren't just for weight, right? These are cancer, neurological diseases, cardiovascular. So what you've created here, I mean, it just transcends over a lot of chronic issues, I personally think, when I've looked at this supplement and what you made. So I'm really interested in the key ingredients. What exactly is Cypor? Can you kind of give us the scientific background of that?
Yeah, thank you, Tracy. I think that was very good insights into this. So yeah, so when I was searching for something that wouldn't be dangerous, would be safe, that would pass through the intestine, it wouldn't change be very, very safe in that context, I actually came up with silicon dioxide. And silicon dioxide is safe. Silicon dioxide is actually in a lot of different food stuff already, and in a number of different things that you're selling. It's in flour, for example, it's in baby food, it's in a number of actually medications. So it's everywhere. And this silicon dioxide is safe. It's actually something which is considered safe in the regulatory perspective. And it's been proven to be safe in a toxicological perspective. So the silicon dioxide, we are actually able in Sigrid to make this silicon dioxide in a novel way, you can say. We can actually make particles of this silicon dioxide, and these particles, we make pores in these particles. And these pores are very, very many in this silicon dioxide, and these pores picks up the enzymes that are released in the intestine. And what kind of enzymes are we releasing in the gut? We are releasing amylase, lipase, and a number of other enzymes to degrade the food. So what we are doing is that we're actually picking up a part of these enzymes, not all of them, because there have been different medications that actually stop amylase or lipase, for example. And then you have problems with your gastrointestinal problems. You get flatulence, for example, and so on. But what I wanted to achieve, or what we wanted to achieve, was something that pick up a small portion or a part, a fraction of the enzymes, So you slow the digestion down to normal levels, you can say. So what we're doing is, with this silicon dioxide, we pick up a part of the enzymes that are released from the pancreas, and then it's stuck inside these particles. And then these particles does not go into your bloodstream. They pass throughout the natural way. And we have tested this in several clinical studies and seen that this is safe. It passes through, and there is no problems with that. And it slowed down the digestion. And Tracy, you're completely right. It's not that the mortality or something like that is actually changed in that context. It's that we're taking up these enzymes and slow the digestion.
And just for people that are listening that are not aware of what enzymes do in the body, which I can't imagine the practitioners are not aware, but in case a layperson stumbles across this podcast, I always consider enzymes like construction workers. They break things down or they build things up. And so enzymes that Dr. Torre is speaking of in our intestinal tract are used to break down foods so that they can become utilized by our systems in the form of glucose and other forms of energy. So very interesting. So you basically gobble up the enzymes that keeps the food from breaking down so quickly. So will it also have an impact on keeping you fuller longer then?
Yes, I mean, Tracy, you're so insightful into this. So what actually happens is, of course, if you slow down the digestion, you actually have the food staying for a little bit longer time in that context, and therefore you will actually feel full, because there are a number of enzymes and hormones in the gut that actually looks at this, or you get the enzymes or the hormones that are actually released from the gut, like GLPs and so on, and also the insulin levels in the blood will actually make you feel fuller for a longer time. And that is one of the things that we're doing with this product, that you're actually feeling fuller for a longer time since you're not degrading it as fast. So we're coming back, as I said, making fast food to slow food by this very highly molecular kind of mechanism, which is not based on inhibition of the enzymes, but that we actually hide the enzymes within these particles.
Very interesting. Do you find through any studies that this particular Cypor technology or supplement is more opportunistic based on the foods you eat? So for example, if I ate a bagel, would it gobble up more the enzymes that are amylase? Because I would imagine all enzymes are kind of released in different levels.
Yep.
Or if I ate a steak, would it gobble up more of the proteolytic enzymes for protein digestion? Have you looked at that, or does it not matter? Does it equally go in and just take up what's more prominent?
No, well, that's also an excellent question. No, what we know from actually our work is that we take up amylase and lipase, and we're not taking up any of the other enzymes to any degree that would actually change anything.
Okay.
So the reason why we're taking up amylase and lipase is because we have made the pores in the silicon dioxide to actually match the pore size of these enzymes. And these enzymes are also the enzymes that you have the highest concentration in the intestine. So we're picking up amylase and lipase, and thereby we're slowing down the digestion. And normally when you actually eat a steak or carbohydrates or any of the food, there is an overflow from the pancreas of these enzymes. So we're not changing the output from the pancreas to any degree. So no, there is no change in actually what we're picking up, but it will interact with the degradation of both lipids and sugars.
Very interesting. So let's talk about specific demographics who could benefit from this and how to use it strategically. And, probably practitioners are thinking, well, if I have somebody who is a type 1 diabetic versus a type 2, which is a completely different metabolic issue,
Yep.
Or just a person that may want to, try to stabilize blood sugar a little bit more, might be pre-diabetic. So can you give me a little insight on how you've applied this supplement to those demographics and what has some of the success been?
So we have done some clinical studies into this, and there we have focused on pre-diabetics and early type 2 diabetics. And we believe that this is the target for this mostly, but actually this could be used in many different forms, as you said, for many different patients where you want to stabilize the blood sugar. Because all of us, not only pre-diabetics and type 2 diabetics, actually have this problem. We are eating this food that is degraded too fast. So this is actually a product that you can give to anyone because the safety part of it is so high. So you can give it to anyone who wants to stabilize their blood sugar levels or actually eating food that is not optimal, if you can say so. So I think we have a product here that is actually very, very broad in that sense that could actually be given to everyone. We don't foresee any problems with any of these different classes, actually. Yeah.
The only side effect might be good health, right? That's
Yeah,
the
exactly. And exactly.
Well, the reason I ask is because, it's practitioners and they need to be able to explain to their patients and clients, like,
Yeah.
how does this work in the body?
Mm.
A lot of people come into our practices on numerous medications, not just one medication, but you're absolutely right. So if you're someone listening to this and maybe women, men who have hit 40 or beyond, right? Let's talk
Yeah.
about that demographic who we know has metabolic dysfunction. If only 6% of the globe has optimal metabolic function, that means the other 94% of us could really use this. And
Yes.
so you have a very wide population of people that you can
Yeah.
target,
Yeah.
even just for optimizing blood sugar. But for those that have a diagnosis of, say, type 1, are there any issues that you could foresee besides better health that we would have to be cautious of if somebody is on insulin injections, has been diagnosed with type 1, anything that you can think of that practitioners should be aware of?
Actually, we don't think that this would be a problem at all, even with type 1 diabetics, because I mean, this actually stabilizes the blood sugar. So, I mean, that would make it easier for type 1 diabetic to actually, I mean, function well, and also the injections with insulin and so forth. So we don't have any foreseen problems with our product. And again, we are smoothing out these effects in the blood. And we don't believe that you will actually go down, so you would get a hypo or something like that. We don't believe that actually would happen in this context. But we haven't focused on type 1 diabetics. We are focusing right now on pre-diabetics and type 2 diabetics. But it's nothing that we would kind of see that it would be a problem.
Yeah. Well, the animal is so different, right? Type 2 diabetics is basically 98% overcome with lifestyle change. And as you said, I always tell my clients there's no such thing as junk food. It's either junk or food. Every once in a while, if you're going to eat junk, just call it what it is and don't try to make it healthy. Like you can't sit here and claim your box of cereal is a great choice for breakfast. But if that's all you have, or if that's what you're eating, then taking something like this could really help until we can reestablish the foundations and help these people understand what real food is. I think even with the most recent changes in recognizing the industry's regulation of foods in the United States, we're now seeing that our cereals contain many more toxins and dyes than other countries in the United States. And so until we can get that establishment under control, we need to help people who are not quite at the level where we are as practitioners, or even you, Dr. Torre, who understands food, understands the mechanism of food. People really think that, opening up a box of Fruit Loops is actually a good choice for their children or themselves in the morning. And it's not a judgment. It's just we've been indoctrinated for years to think that that's the way we start breakfast. So just starting out that way and adding this product is an easy step for people, I feel, to help gain some control over blood glucose as the practitioner kind of comes in and says, hey, we're going to maybe start with some real food in the morning. So I kind of love this entire process and product because you developed it with the understanding of where people are. You've kind of met society where it is, rather than trying to say, like, you got to change your whole life and your whole diet and you got to exercise and do all the things. Oh, and then here's the supplement. You kind of met them where they are. So I think that's really incredible for people to understand, and that it does work where they are. So I think that's really unique.
Thank you. That was actually very beautiful. Uh, I would say that this is exactly where I come from, because even I, who have worked with this my whole life, I still eat bagels and I eat some cereals, and I mean it's impossible to change fully, right? You can't
Absolutely.
really. It doesn't work. So you need some help. That is
Mm-hmm.
what I want to provide, and what Sigrid want to provide. You want some help to actually get better, and most people actually understand that they're not eating maybe optimal. uh,
Right.
but it's very difficult in our society to actually change. I
Mm.
mean, it's very, very difficult. And I think this is exactly what you're saying. I mean, if you can get some help in this, and that is what we want to achieve.
Yeah. And that was the whole onset of what happened with, let's just get into it, what happened with Ozempic, right?
Yeah,
When Ozempic hit the market, it met a group of people where they were. Now, the issue with Ozempic, and I don't have issues with semaglutide or tirzepatide. I don't have issues with peptides in general. I personally love them and use them in my practice. But what happened with Ozempic was, because people didn't do the foundational things, nutrition, hydration, movement, sleep, elimination, and had good gut health and balanced other hormones, they had to overdose them.
yeah,
And it drove the metabolic function. It drove just the GLP-1 train. Or if they took something like tirzepatide, it drove the GLP-1 and the GIP. So it mimicked, and actually it's where the research came from, it mimicked almost like a gastric bypass. And so people lost weight very quickly, but they also were very malnourished. And it didn't require them to change. So they were like, oh, I don't have to change. I can still eat my Fruit Loops. Nothing against you guys all out there eating Fruit Loops. I'm just giving you an idea. And I'm not downing any cereal companies. I'm just using it as an example. But they could eat whatever they wanted and still lose weight. But the result was malnutrition, loss of muscle mass, gastroparesis. So what I'm hearing you say is that none of those things are side effects of this supplement, and that it still slows the breakdown of the food so that people can stay the way they are for right now until their practitioner has time to educate them and come in with something safer. So it's really, I don't want to say it's nature's Ozempic, but I mean it's really a better choice, what I'm hearing, and much more affordable, may I say. It's like much more affordable. So
yeah. No, but you're completely right. I mean, this is not a hormone in that context. I think uh, Ozempic and all of the GLPs and the GLPs chips, and even the ones trying to make that, there is like three different compounds in them. They are all very effective, as you say, extremely effective. But you stop eating, as you say, and then you actually get malnutrition to some extent if you're not careful.
mhm.
And I think this is not what we want to achieve. We want to have something that is not a drug. It's a not a drug. We don't want to mess with all of these effects that you actually will have with a drug, because you will have these side effects. We don't get that. What we
Mhm.
wanted to achieve, and what I wanted to achieve, was something that was very mild in that context, that actually passes through the intestine, that is not a drug, but you can get these effects not as big as with a drug where you actually get these problems, but something that is sustainable, that can help you for a longer time. And
Mhm.
this is the kind of idea. So you're completely right there.
So do you recommend people, as they're getting healthier and whatnot, this seems like a kind of almost like an everyday product.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and it can be used safely every day, almost like a
Yes.
multivitamin for your metabolic function, right? So,
Mm.
giving you all kinds of taglines. You should use these. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's your metabolic multi.
Yeah.
So people could use this, or if they attain a healthy weight and healthy metabolic function, and that includes your other hormones and neurotransmitters, they could use this strategically over the holidays if they're going to a birthday party. So yeah, it can be every day or strategic. So again, I'm really kind of falling in love with your product a little bit. So I just want you to know that. So um, what kind of improvements through your clinical processes did you find? Were there any like massive statistics where you were like, wow, the impact on this demographic using our product was this? Can you share any of those with us?
So, I mean, we're making right now, we're actually making the biggest pre-diabetes study, or second biggest, I think, in the world on this. So we have 300 patients actually on our medical device. So we're actually, with the same kind of technique that we are using here, we have made a medical device that we're going to use to people who are pre-diabetic and type 2 diabetic. So, and we will have a CE mark that you need in Europe to actually do that.
Really?
So that is a very big study, and we will see the results coming out here in the near future. But we
Very.
have also done other clinical studies on this technique, not actually the supplement, but on this medical device. And the medical device, and there we have seen lowering of blood sugar, HB1AC, so long-term blood sugar reduction. We have also done shorter studies where we have looked at the direct postprandial glucose levels, seeing that the postprandial levels goes down with this technique. And we've also seen that you get some effects on lowering of your fat mass. Also seen some lowering of your blood lipid levels and so forth. So we have a very solid background on this technique, and that's where we kind of excel in this area.
Now you spiked my interest with the blood lipid levels because how would it impact lipid levels? So for those listening, cholesterol levels.
Yeah. So cholesterol level is very difficult because that is actually also made and it's recircled and so on. So it's a tricky thing to look at. But what we're basically doing is that, remember, we're also taking up lipase, meaning that the lipid levels actually going into the because you also get spikes with lipids, and most people and also practitioners doesn't realize that there is a very big part of insulin resistance and all of that is actually also depending on the lipid levels. So the lipid levels actually will have the same kind of, it's not as fast as with glucose, but you get increase in lipid levels when you eat different kind of lipids. And that actually also affects the pancreas to release insulin and other hormones in that context. So you have an axis here that we are actually taking down that also. So the lipid, because we're taking up lipase, we're actually getting a slower and lower peaks of lipids. And actually, it's not just that the peaks are lowering, but we're actually lowering the whole curve to some extent, depending on how much of the concentration of the cypor you're actually taking, or this silica dioxide. So we have a way here to actually look at ways to lowering glucose and lipids. And that is the kind of the idea from this point.
Very, very interesting. I'll stop interrogating you, but I have just one more questions. So 2 questions left. One, what dosage do you recommend? Is it one with each meal, one every time you eat? What are you looking at works best in your clinical trials?
So, I mean, in the clinical trials, we're using a gel. So we're actually put that in a gel, this cypor, as we call it, this silicon dioxide. So in the clinical trials, in the medical device, we have a higher dose, but that's for a medical device. So that's for actually for treatment of type 2 diabetes to some extent and prediabetes. So the supplement, we're recommending that you take 2 capsules to 1 meal, and do that twice a day to do your biggest meals. Okay. That's kind of our recommendation, and that's what we believe is a way forward for the supplement.
Awesome. So at your biggest meals, 2 capsules, and only 2 meals out of the meals that you choose.
Because we think that is actually a way to adhere to this, because people have a little bit problem. Sometimes they don't eat breakfast, and sometimes they don't eat lunch, and in many different ways people eat.
I eat all the food. I like the food. Optimize my macros, I'm all but all right. Well, I am really impressed with the impact that this is going to have on health overall for so many people. So if you're a practitioner listening to this, you can add Sigrid to your Get Healthy store if you have one. If not, we will put in the show notes a place where you can get a wholesale account and order this for your office or for yourself. Dr. Torrey, thank you for being here. Do you want to leave us with any closing remarks?
No, I think the closing remark is that we believe that this could actually help a lot of people. And we believe that actually having something that is not a drug, that is much more mild, that is actually not have any of these side effects that is associated with these drugs, is a good thing, and that could help a lot of different people. And as we've been all talking about, it can actually help a lot of different patients and many people who actually eat in a miserable way. And not just miserable, but normal way, I would say.
Yeah, for now, until they learn, right? And we all started somewhere. Our health journeys all started somewhere. Mine started in college, and I remember I loved Diet Coke. And starvation was the thing. You didn't eat, and that actually offset metabolic function later. So we all have our stories, no judgment, but this is a great product to meet your patients and clients where they are as they learn better choices for their life. So thank you for your contribution to the industry. We are grateful to you and to Sigrid. Again, guys, add this to your store, get a wholesale account, order some products. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast. Also, make sure you share it with somebody who can benefit from all this great knowledge. Find Get Healthy Store on all the social channels and give us a follow. We really appreciate that. And thank you again for being here, Dr. Torrey, and we'll see you soon.